Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you believe that the modern structure of Islam is exactly the way Rasulullah had set it out for us to follow, you're completely wrong. The Islamic establishments today have been utterly corrupted by Israeli sultanate dogs posing in Saudi Arabia as some kind of high muftis and sheikhs, when all they're teaching people is israf, riyah in large quantities, and israf in large quantities to the point that it voids all good deeds. And I'll get to that. This Quran 20 verse 127 says in blatant detail that Allah doesn't recompense the people that eat extravagantly. It says it right then and there. It says it all over the Quran that Allah doesn't love the extravagant and they constantly err. Rasulullah had dates and water all the time. That was what he ate on a daily basis. He had 9 homes, and all of them just dates and water was all they could find to eat, and maybe half a bag of flour. Rasulullah ate cooked food on special occasions only in his homes. He didn't cook except for after 3 full moons had gone by. This is according to Aisha, narrated by Urwa, her nephew, asking, "Why do I only see fires coming from your home but every 3 months?" She said, "Don't you know I and the Prophet exist on the two black things, dates and water?" That's 3 months no cooking. The Saudi Arabians have taught us through Israel that we need to be cooking these huge, extravagant meals every single day, breaking our fast with them in Ramadan and everything. That's another thing, including Taraweeh into our religion is another poison. It's another huge riyah point. It's utterly disgusting. The Rasulullah cut off Taraweeh for a perfect reason. It was a good reason, and Omar only brought it back, rahimullah, because he had people that already prayed tahajjud every single day of the year, no matter what. So when they were there in the masjid for the 10 nights at the end of the Ramadan, they were just literally doing their average thing, praying tahajjud. So Omar gathered them together. If you don't pray Taraweeh, tahajjud naturally, praying Taraweeh in front of a bunch of people just to be seen is utterly shirk riyah. Shirk riyah is another big thing. You see these big sheikhs, they get on TV and they say, "Oh, Ya Allah, may Allah help Palestine, may Allah stop bombing, may Allah feed the children." They say these things, these du'as that they made up themselves and instituted out loud into the deen themselves. This is abhorrent. This is gross behavior. Rasulullah gave us du'as to say out loud. When you make up your own dua to say out loud, you're instituting something new into the deen. It's bid'ah, right? You're only saying this out loud so people can hear it. Because when you whisper a dua in your heart, Allah hears it. You don't have to say it out loud. Saying it out loud is what you do when you're reading off a dua that Rasulullah gave to us, or a Khalifa, or a companion, but you're not making them up yourself. This is bid'ah, shirkriya. This is an act of worship for others than Allah. The only reason that you verbalize it is for others to hear it. And shirkriya, bid'ah, and it's also idle talk. Another thing you can't do in Islam. Islam doesn't say anything about music. It talks about idle talk being a problem. The other way that the Saudi Arabians through Israel have corrupted us is they've changed a lot of the meanings, the colloquial meanings that we have in the Quran. For instance, the mushaf. Rasulullah didn't have a mushaf ever. He never saw a mushaf. So for us to assume that the reward he's talking about in the Quran for Hafiz Quran means Hafiz Mus'haf, and it doesn't. Simply memorizing the Mus'haf is not the Quran. Rasulullah was the Quran at the time period. His life, his times, his daily activities, what happened to him. This was the Quran. Aisha, bring it back to her, she said that Rasulullah was the Quran. It was the primordial Quran. So the Sirah has to be memorized along with the Quran. Otherwise, you are not Hafiz Quran, you're Hafiz Mus'haf. There's a big disambiguation. They changed it so we think that we can eat the meat of the Christians. And we could eat the meat, or we could marry the Christians. Christians are mushrikun. They have 3 gods. They believe in 3 gods at the end of the day. We cannot eat anything that they have to do with meat or women, none of that stuff. We it's almost it's baffling. The Jews almost can't be considered Ahlul Kitab either, because Ahlul Kitab, it doesn't mean people of the book like we think. It means people of the law. People of the old law, the covenant with God, the 10 Commandments. If the Jews don't keep the commandments, the Sabbath, if they don't have one God and no carving, you know, idols or graven images, they can't be considered Jews, like the Kabbalic worshiping, pseudo Jews. So we're getting into a territory here where the Cabal worshiping pseudo Jews own the kosher factory, so you can't even eat kosher meat. And you can't even trust halal meat today either. I've seen many mispackaging and mislabeling working in credit card processing management for halal businesses. You got to see the animal yourself almost. It's to that point. They've corrupted us on so many levels, and they know exactly where to hit us. Another way that Israel has drastically corrupted Islam is they took Qunut out of the Salah. When Rasulullah would pray, he would say Sami Allahu liman hamida and raise his hands up in the air like this and make a heartfelt dua to Allah. He would do it for he did it for 2 months at a time after Bi'r al Mauna and Arajia. He would do it for 2 straight months, every single salah. Today we don't do it one time. Only 73, I don't say only lightly, but 73 companions died at Bi'r al Mauna and Arajia. Rasulullah did 2 months of heartfelt dua like this for their passing. How many? I think it's 700,000 have died since October 2023. Nobody's doing this when they pray. No one's doing heartfelt dua to Allah. We're just skipping that part. Israel knows the weapons in Islam, and it's the prayer. It's the prayer. They had yikes. Embarrass me on the live, brother. Brother, what's that? Anyway, so they've taken the canute out of the prayer for a reason. They had an antichrist, the Jews, called Sebbatai V in 1666, who had to convert to Christianity or die, or convert to Islam or die. So they learned their religion very well, and that guy, he worked with uh, Adam Weishaupt in order to create the Bavarian Illuminati, which is the Illuminati child touchers that we have today that are ruining everything in the world. So they're very well versed in Islam. They know what to pull and what to take away from it and how to cripple people, make everybody think that memorizing the Mus'haf makes you Hafiz Quran and your parents get all these rewards and it's done for you and that's it. You could put your feet up and relax. You're at the highest reward. It's nonsense. It's bullcrap. It's why a lot of the people that are Hafiz Quran, it didn't really benefit them spiritually. They still kind of don't have any unique thoughts or ideas up there, and that's a direct repercussion of Israel making everybody Israf addicts, Riyatards, Riyabots. They've utterly crippled us. We don't make Salah properly. We don't hold our posture correctly whenever we're in Salah. We don't keep our back straight whenever we pray. Everybody does this for some reason. The hadith say to keep your eyes down and your head straight, your back straight. It doesn't say to keep your, it doesn't ever say to put your head down anywhere. These are just some of the corruptions I was thinking of. I mean, they just came to me really while I put the video together. I only have like two lined up, but there's so many ways they just keep popping up every single time that I think about it again. The current structure of Islam has been utterly corrupted and needs reformation to the maximum. I've been saying that the Salafis and Wahhabis have been utterly destroying our religion for 10 years and no one was believing me. I've been calling Bin Baz a salt in the dog for 10 years and then people thinking I'm a kafir and all kinds of stuff for it. When the furthest couldn't be true. You know that so Ibn Umar, he was eating with a poor person and the poor person was eating a lot of food. And when Ibn Umar got up, he said, make sure he doesn't follow me. I don't want him to approach me. And Nafi said, why? And he said, because that man was eating like a kafir. He was eating like he has seven stomachs. And it was narrated by Imam Nawawi about that situation that it's makruh to mix with people who exhibit signs of kufar. Like they might say that my earring, for instance, is a sign of kufar. I don't have a pierced ear. It's just a decoration. Allah loves that you decorate yourselves. These are so many misconceptions that we have in the deen, and they're brought upon by Israel promoting these muftis and these sheikhs that do nothing but change the way that we think. They have scripts, they have guide handlers, they have guidelines that prevent them from saying certain things. And by the way, it's all been taught to them by jinn, by Moloch and these jinn that they worship. They get information from them. That's what they're doing. They're teaching them what to do to attack us. And for some reason, the Muslims have just let it work. And I know what the reason is. Whenever you eat acidic cooked food on a daily basis, Rasulullah said anything touched by fire breaks your wudu. Anything touched by fire. If you're eating acidic cooked food on a daily basis, it ruins your neurochemistry, makes it acidic, so you can't produce feel good chemicals. You don't get proper sleep. You don't have to get up and at 'em to go do your salat, to do ibadat. It lowers your neurochemistry. It's completely wasteful. Whenever you cook food, all the water leaves, and with it, all the water soluble minerals and electrolytes, potassium, magnesium, sodium, etc. And when you cook, like say an onion, if you were to cut it up raw, it would fill up an entire huge bowl of food. And when you cook it, it just gets down to a puddle. You lose up to 500 times food mass upon cooking. This is wastefulness. Say you've done that with every onion you've ever touched. Also, when you've wasted so much food mass, if you cook a vitamin, for instance, at 180 degrees, all vitamins are dead. So, like 109 degrees is vitamin A goes, vitamin C is like 120. So, when you're cooking all this food, you're wasting all the vitamins, the minerals, the food mass. The brethren of the shaitan are those who are wasteful. Allah doesn't like those who squander, those who waste. Allah doesn't love those who waste. It says in the Quran, He makes them constantly err. If you want me to give the verses, I can. It says that Allah doesn't recompense those who act extravagantly. And Rasulullah was asked by Fatima, what is extravagance? And he said, it is to eat anything halal that you want. Rasulullah said that the worst of my nation are those who are nourished on a variety of food, wear a variety of clothes, and are pompous in their speech. Rasulullah went on tirades against people who eat extravagantly to a very serious point that nobody talks about. There's a sunnah diet. It's fruit and water. It's in the Quran. Allah says, eat of its fruit when it bears and pay on the day of its reaping. For the Islamic diet, it says all over the place. You have to eat of what is halal and good. And if something is wasteful and its preparation, it's extravagant. Not only that, it's bad for you. How is something that's neurologically bad for you and bad for your blood chemistry halal or good in any way? Rasulullah said it's haram. It breaks your wudu to eat it. It should be special occasions only is when you have cooked food. Uh, so let me, just in case I'm forgetting anything, we'll just pull up some notes I wrote. Uh, yeah, it is extravagance that one eats whatever he desires. That's in Ibn Majah. Ayesha narrated, it is the first calamity for this nation after the Prophet's death, is fullness of their stomachs. When their stomachs became full, they became obese and their hearts weakened and their desires became wild. Uh, Eat and drink, but waste not by extravagance. Certainly, Allah likes not the musrifun, which are those who waste by extravagance. Surah Al-Araf 731. Son of Adam doesn't fill any vessel worse than his stomach. It is sufficient for the son of Adam to eat just a few mouthfuls to keep him going. If to keep him going, it's sufficient to just eat a few mouthfuls of fruit to keep you going. How do you have to have a whole meal of bread and meat and rice? And when you do, it takes so much water to digest that meal. A plate of bread, rice, and meat takes up to 2 gallons of water to digest through 36 feet of intestine. This is so brutally bad for you, dehydrating for major organs. Say you're doing this multiple times a day for months, you could be years in the hole dehydrated from that. And doing it for life, I mean, there's a reason most people in this country, in America, when they get an EGCFR of their kidneys, they have 50% kidney failure. They're 50% kidney usage, or way worse than that. They're usually like stage 2 or stage 3 kidney failure, and it's just normalized. Because everybody's so dehydrated. Uh, Eat and drink, but waste not by extravagance. Uh, yeah, it's extravagance to eat everything that you want. So, Angel Jibril alayhi salam said to Rasulullah, your nation will continue to conquer the world until they consume faluhaj. And Rasulullah said, what is faluhaj? And he said, it is when they mixed butter and ghee. If you look, everybody today mixes fat and sugar together all the time, and all of their pastries, their desserts, their breakfasts, their coffees, it's just the normal thing. And it's condemned here in Sirah. And another way that they've something else I just thought about in Ibn Sa'd's Tabaqat, it says in the part about Ibrahim that his son Ishmael's Wahi was the Arabic language. If you go to any major Islamic establishment today, like any serious Islamic university, like in Medina, they'll tell you some Yarub story about some Jarhumite Yemeni guy that the language is somehow named after. Like they just take away all the specialness from the language and the religion. You know, it's Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi Subhanallahi al-azim. When you speak that, it sounds so much better than alok vek shalok vek halom or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like shtom shalayim shom. It's all their words just sound terrible, and they want to demean Arabic and Islam because it makes them look bad. You know, the truth just would set it would snuff them out. So they want to make it look as terrible as they can. Oh, that's why. Okay. And so it says, thus we do not recompense him who eats extravagantly and does not believe in the communication of his Lord. And certainly the chastisement of the hereafter is severe and more lasting. Surah Taha 21:27. Eating too much is extravagant. Cooking the food all the time is wasteful. You know, and do not squander wastefully and extravagant. Surely the squanderers are the followers of the shaitan, and the shaitan is ever ungrateful to his Lord. Surah Al Isra 17:27. The first we heard of Fluhaj, this is the Fluhaj one I was just saying. Rasulullah wept at the end of that one, which is what I forgot to mention. Whenever Allah intends goodness from His servants, He reveals to him to live moderately and spend his life in the best way and keep him from extravagance and prodigality. This is a calling to anybody hearing this. If you want to change your life and start the Sunnah diet, when Rasulullah and Ali were going to Khaybar, Ali fell sick with an eye infection. His eye was swelling up out of his head, super sick, and he was out in desert heat, potentially fighting and at war, carrying stuff heavy all day in the desert, exhausted. Despite this condition, when he was eating, Rasulullah only threw him 7 dates, and when he asked for more, he said that's enough. Son of Adam is sustained on just a few morsels. It's a call for everybody to change in the entire world. Allah's going to wipe the Israf addicts off the planet, whether they like it or not. You have to have fucking, forgive me, food as a special occasion. Cook food is a special occasion thing. It's not every day, multiple times a day. People got it way wrong. Rasulullah said something that will continue to plague my nation until judgment day is niyaha, ignorant cultural traditions. They have to be cut out. It's got to stop. It's a plague on us. And people just think that, you got one Arab group of people in Africa and one in the Middle East or one in Europe, and if you put them all in the same room, they all eat some mixture of bread, rice, and pasta. It's all like bread, rice, and coffee, bread, rice, and tea. Every last one of them is some variation of these four things. They've just been tricked into this cultural appropriation of leaving the sunnah for cultural appropriation and this niyaha. It's horrid. Perform ablution after eating anything cooked with fire, or he said anything touched with fire. That's Abu Sufyan narrated. This is narrated in Abu Dawud, the Purification, Kitab al-Tahara, 195. Anything touched by fire, you have to do a do afterwards. Anything oily, anything touched by fire, you got to do a do. So Oh, I'm sure maybe I'll think of other things, but there's just so many things off the top of my head. Israel has utterly corrupted the Muslims, made us weak, made it so that way the 2 billion man spear of Islam cannot be wielded by anybody. We're not expecting a Khalifa, despite the fact it's in all the end times hadith clearly that we're supposed to get an Emir who has 3 sons that fight over the Kaaba. He leads Isa and Salah. That we have to get an Emir. And it says in the Quran in chapter 17, Surah Al Isra, verse 4, 3 through 7, that Allah will destroy the Jews' civilization for the second time with servants of great might. And it says in the Quran, it uses the word Qurra, which it comes from the word Quramat. If you look on my other YouTube pages and all my socials, I have videos doing Quramat by Allah's permission. That's where Allah is the hands in which you strike. It's not something that should be hidden from people. We have spiritual gifts and they're laid out for us. Allah can become the eyes in which you see, the ears in which you hear. It's farasa, spiritual visual acuity, seeing with the light of Allah. It's mentioned plainly in hadith. Beware farasa, for the believer sees with the light of Allah, true believer. Spiritual hearing, which is the first one that a person unlocks, which is intuition, premonition, inspiration, being able to hear the malaika, the psychic world around you, basically, like the jinn, the malaika. And when Allah becomes the hands in which you strike, that's like Musa parting the seas. So when Rasulullah conquered Mecca, for when he conquered Mecca and he went inside of the peacefully conquered Mecca, I will say, didn't kill anybody. He went inside the Kaaba and rode his horse around and pointed his staff at each of the idols on the wall, and they fell off the wall as he was pointing the staff and pulling. Telekinesis is what that is in modern day terms. So we have these spiritual gifts. They are afraid of them. Abdul Qadir al Jalani is known. He had over 100,000 people see him do a miracle in Turkey. So there's so, and that was in like the 1890s or something. There's so many proofs and evidences for miracles occurring, and they want to suppress this. Quramat, they know is in the Quran, is going to end them. They don't want this. It says in the it people interpret it as great military might or Qur'an, which comes from Quramat. Mu'jizat is where a prophet does a miracle. Quramat is where a follower of a prophet does a miracle. I'm tired. I don't want to like misrepresent the Quran or what's going on here truly, so I'll cut it short. I don't want to. I feel like I'm not coming up with the points that I should be. So maybe we'll make a part two if this gets enough traction. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name's Vinny. I converted to Islam like 12 years ago. No, sorry, 10 years ago. Uh, yeah, kind of my thing. Salam.